As Australia's largest city, Sydney is home to one of the most diverse and quickly growing communities in the world in regards to population and economic growth. In this video, we will showcase how Sydney is an exemplary global city for its incredibly multicultural city population and relations between its CBD, or central business district, and suburban areas.
In 1788, British colonizers arrived in what is now New South Wales to claim the land as new penal colonies following the loss of the American colonies. The first shiploads of Australian settlers displaced thousands of Indigenous people. By 1890, Australia's economy was booming with a population of 3 million exporting wool, dairy products, and wheat. On January 1st, 1901, Australia's 6 states became one nation under a single constitution.
Interestingly, the Australian government does not record data on racial demographics of its people. However, ethnic and ancestral demographics can provide useful information for understanding the composition of the Australian population.
As a result of vast ancestral origins within Australia, there is great ethnic diversity, specifically in the capital of Sydney. As Sydney is Australia's most populous city, thousands of people with various ethnic backgrounds can be found here. This image shows the groupings of international populations within Sydney and the areas in which they reside. This map is furthermore important to study as it shows that different ethnic groups are dispersed within the existing population of Sydney, enforcing the notion of Sydney as a diverse, global city with people from countless backgrounds living together.
Regarding Sydney's suburbs, the majority of suburban dwellers are young, middle-income residents working in Sydney's managerial industries. As property value is lower in the suburbs, couples and young families are increasingly moving to the city's outskirts to find affordable housing. Similar to the United States, car dependency is high in Australia. However, the specific infrastructure we will analyze later in this video ameliorates this problem, providing an efficient, effective, and accessible solution to daily commutes.
Sydney is branded as the ultimate tourist destination with the perfect balance of beautiful beaches and enriching culture. It is branded as the harbor city, having ports that give the city direct access to engage in international commerce with countries around the world. Sydney's ability to participate in international trade, rich culture, and numerous tourist attractions make it a perfect embodiment of the global city.
In relation to other countries, Australia recently uncovered a cyber attack by China on its national parliament just before its elections that may have skewed results. Interestingly, Australia's Department of Foreign Affairs recommended not taking action against the Chinese for this cyber attack as to not disrupt the trade relations between itself and China.
The unique dimension of Sydney we will examine is its light rail project. The Sydney Light Rail Project is an exemplary case of globalization occurring within a city as it transforms accessibility, interconnectedness, and efficiency within the city. Geography plays an integral role in globalizing Sydney as its isolated geopolitical location prescribes significant disadvantages. Therefore, Sydney needs to work harder to engage with the rest of the globe. A major component of globalization is the need for all members of a city to be able to access various kinds of workforce opportunities, and the light rail allows for Sydney's inhabitants to do exactly
There's
that.
no way any educated, sensible person in today's context will oppose to globalization. You can't survive without it, actually. I mean, and the way I see the world in the next 10, 15 years is it'll be more open, free trade, free work in any part of the geography. I think that's the trend which I can think of in the next 10, 15 years.
The light rail project connects previously excluded groups outside of Sydney's CBD to its business sector, allowing the population to transcend geographic barriers that suburbs tend to prescribe. As globalization becomes increasingly about movement and openness, the light rail amplifies Sydney's global status as it provides a solution to geographic separation and promotes movement within the city.
Sydney's light rail spans 12.7 kilometers and includes 23 stops along city and suburban areas. Light rail construction began in 2015 and is estimated to be open to the public in December of this year.
It's a sight some thought may never happen, and maybe a sign that this light rail project has finally turned a corner.
What a relief after, obviously the construction that we have seen. But to now run it to Town Hall is just great news for everyone, and it's a big sign of, that we're not far off now.
For public buses and personal cars. This caused the streets of Sydney to be incredibly congested with traffic, creating delays in bus schedules and compromising the reliability of these systems.
The city provides for nearly 1/3 of all of Australia's wealth as it flourishes in financial, cultural, property and business, and communication industries.
Globalization is defined as the ability to easily move across far distances while maintaining a state of interconnectivity and economic interdependence.
The light rail transcends the notion that only Sydney's bustling corporate area and CBD are global. Instead, the light rail allows for communities previously excluded from this narrative to become all the more integrated. As noted in an earlier video, movement is the future of globalization, and Sydney is attesting to this claim by establishing its light rail system as the mechanism by which residents of all of its neighborhoods can feel connected to its economic and workforce hub. One phenomena resulting from Sydney's light rail project is how American cities, particularly Charlotte, North Carolina, are proposing nearly identical modes of transportation. This amplifies Sydney's scope as a global city as it strongly influences policies and systems in far-off locations. Sydney is portrayed as a global city for its cultural landmarks, multicultural population, and its integration with much of the globe despite its isolated location. Yet, as we begin to learn more about infrastructure such as the Sydney Light Rail project, it becomes clear that the city is all the more outward-looking. The light rail will amplify the city's economy, in turn transforming its positioning on the global stage.
I am interested in further exploring the Sydney Light Rail project and the potential negative impacts that it might have on the city. Specifically, I want to look into the environmental effects of the construction of the light rail. How many trees had to be cleared to make space for the light rail? How is Sydney's wildlife affected? Ultimately, I am interested in what the city of Sydney is willing to compromise to achieve the status of a global city.
I am interested in the effects of Sydney's light rail project on civilian health, both mental and physical. On one hand, what are the negative mental health impacts of light rail construction displacing small business owners and their families? On the other hand, what are the implications of effects on physical health, negatively through construction pollution, but positively as light rail paths offer transportation to medical facilities? Overall, is the quality of one kind of health more heavily increased or decreased than the other?